All right. How is everyone? My man Roland, I can see you. Joy, how are you? Ogambachi, Reverend Joab, nice to see you, my man. How are you doing? It is exactly 7 minutes past the hour, and I'm always excited to come and do these Twitter spaces to to get to have conversations about things that maybe we do not talk about as much as we should. Okay. The topic today for discussion is practical strategies for staying ahead in your business or job. Okay. Um. Now, for starters, a couple of things here. So, why this topic? Why now? And why is it pivotal to everything that is going on? Couple of years ago, I'm part of a consulting team, and I wasn't doing much back then. And we were booked by this client into a 7-star hotel. Got to be there for a couple of weeks, and I remember the day I was leaving. A what? There's that invoice that they give you where you sign, and they asked me, you know what, Mr. Sudesh, please sign against this invoice, and the client was to pay that money, and I signed, and I signed against $17,000, more than 17,000, but $17,000 something, and all I had in my pocket then was $100, and I was disturbed. I was incredibly disturbed because how would a company spend $17,000 on me? And I'm working as part of a team, and all I have in my pocket is $100, and it got me thinking as I was on the plane, because you sit on the plane and you're thinking to yourself, oh my god, what just happened? Did I just sign against $17,000? They are flying me back to my country, and all I have in my pocket is $100. Like, how could that be so? And it got me thinking, if they spent that much money on me, regardless of what I was doing on the team, I should have been valuable. That is number one. And secondly, it got me thinking to myself, what if I'm ahead of my time and I have no clue? Okay. What if I'm I'm thinking, I'm here to do a menial job, but what if I'm ahead of my time and I actually have no clue? And I started thinking about so many people that were ahead of their time, and everyone else kind of valued them apart from themselves. And guys like David, the guy in the Bible, went through a time where he would kill lions, he would do all these things, but he was when you put him on the pedestal of society, he was a no one. He was a nobody. Okay. Coming to think about guys like Nikola Tesla, a guy who invented lots of technology, or everything that we know about the electric cars, and lots of patents he owned. Yet this man died as a pauper. Okay, guys like Ford, who changed paradigms. People like Margaret Thatcher. I began to think about these people that were ahead of their time. Some of them knew that they were ahead of their time. Some of them had no clue, and that brought me to a lifelong study. By the way, this was about 10 years ago. So over the last decade, I've been studying what it means to get ahead, and also who is ahead and what does it mean to get ahead. So let's start from there. What does it mean to be ahead? Let me give you an example. Let me give you a couple of examples in business, and you get it. So case in point, there is a telecom company in Uganda called MTN, and they team up with CBA Bank, okay, and to provide micro loans. So MTN has the utility, CBA Bank has the product, which is the micro loan, okay, and within less than 15 months, 7 million accounts had been opened. Just think about that. 7 million accounts had been opened for people to access micro loans, and up to now, people can access micro loans through their phones. And that was forward thinking. That, you know what, we have to think about the person that cannot go to the bank, but they have minimal risk, and we're going to provide something for them. So in that way, CBA and MTN were ahead of their job. But also, I want to submit to you another company that has been ahead of their curve for a very long time. So you're all aware of Uber. Okay, Uber, you register your car, and then you ferry people around. They give you some money. They come. Uber as a company takes a percentage. It's an app. It's everywhere. Okay, so when you think about it, Uber is in 673 cities all over the world. 673. So that is huge coverage, and I thought it was the biggest player in their industry until I found another company that is beating them hands down, and this company is called Didi. Didi only operates in China. Didi has 21 million drivers compared to 3 million drivers of Uber around the world. By the way, this is around the world. And then Didi covers 400 cities. Uber covers 673 cities. One driver in Didi, and this is a company in China, predominantly in China. One driver in Didi does 7.43 rides. They make about 7.43 rides per day compared to 4.0 rides per driver per day in Uber. Didi is, its funding is just below. It's actually 20.6 billion compared to Uber, which is at 21.6 billion. Now, you can see that a company that only operates in China has 21 million drivers. Uber had 3 million drivers all over the world. What is the difference between Didi and Uber? Didi focused on something that you call the employee experience. They looked at the technology that the driver would need. They looked at the social welfare of this driver, and they looked at how to orchestrate the culture around it. So they've created schools for the Didi drivers where their kids can go to school. They give them health care. They fuel their cars. They are not worried about they're not worried about education. They're not worried about healthcare, and so they concentrate on the job. Okay, now they don't get a lot of money, but you can see that an average driver in Didi, like I told you, does 7.43 rides per day per person, while an Uber driver does only 4. That means that a Didi driver does 3 trips more on average, and this is an average. Okay, so this goes to show you that, how do I create a Didi? How do I create an MTN and a CBA? But also, as I'm talking about the companies, I want you to think in terms of the job, of the job that you are doing. What does it mean to be ahead of? What does it mean to be ahead in that job? What it means to be ahead in that job, in your job, has a couple of things. Number one, you should be always looking at the strategies that you are using. Okay. I was sharing with my team recently that, you know what, we need to incorporate more AI in what we do. Why? Because it accelerates and increases your capability. So, as an employee, you look at the tools and the strategies that you're using as an aspect, and these are the three things that will put you 10 steps ahead. Number one, how able are you to use and maximize and optimize the tools that you have? And two, what story do you tell yourself? Are you an employee that shows up on a daily basis and you get a paycheck, and then at the end of the month you leave, or at the end of the year you will get a bonus and leave? Or you are an employee who tells themselves a story that I'm here to learn, to earn, to add value, to build a system, to learn how systems can work so that I can replicate this somewhere for me to get ahead. Okay, so that is those are two things. This third thing I'll share at the end of at the end of the call that define how an employee can stay ahead. Okay, I should take notes here. The third thing. All right. Now let's get into. I've just described what it means to stay ahead. Now let's get into the strategy part. What is a strategy? Strategy is one of those big words that are thrown around, and they are almost cliche. They are like innovation. They are like employee engagement. They are thrown around so much, and people have lost the simplicity of what it actually means. So, what does strategy mean? Strategy is a process of creating a set of well-aligned activities with the aim of occupying a valuable position in a competitive landscape. The keywords here are a process of creating a set of well-aligned activities. It shouldn't be one activity, it shouldn't be two, but they are well-aligned activities with the aim of occupying a position. Everyone has a position. Never be fooled. Everyone has a position. There are some people who are in the companies, they are not necessarily managers, but they occupy a very influential position in that organization. Nothing gets done in that organization until they consult them. Why? Because they know how to position themselves in a competitive landscape. When they fired people during COVID, there are people that they wouldn't fire. Why? Because they knew how to position themselves in a very competitive landscape. I remember one of our clients coming to me, and during the first lockdown, that should have been March of 2020, and he tells me, you know what, Sudesh, we are downsizing service providers, but we cannot let you go. We cannot let you go because you have defined the success that we have as of now. So we'll need you. We'll find a way of compensating you, but we need you. Why did they fire all the service providers and they kept Sudesh International Consult? It is because we know one or two things about occupying valuable positions in competitive landscapes. All right. Okay. So as I go through this, you'll understand what this is all about. So let's get into the 5. I'm going to share 5 strategies that will help you stay ahead on your job and or in your business. The first strategy is what we call embracing lateral thinking. Embracing lateral thinking. So there are two kinds of thinking. There's what we call vertical thinking, where 1 + 1 = 2 and 2 + 2 = 4. And if you say 2 + 2 is 5, you get it wrong, and then society will judge you as someone that failed their exams, and you will forever be a failure. There's that system that most of us went through. But also on the other side, there's what you call lateral thinking. In lateral thinking, 1 + 1 can be anything. It can be a river, it can be 3, it can be 7, it can be a donkey. Lateral thinking is by and large what you require to stay ahead. Why? Because it is not it helps you to It helps you to create things that have never been created before. Yeah. Case in point, there's this architect. His name is Mick Pierce, and he lives in Harare, Zimbabwe. And he's given a task of coming up with the biggest office building in that city. And so, what does he do? He's interested. He's an architect, so he loves to draw buildings and stuff like that. But he's also interested in the subject of termites, terminology. Okay, so he studies those two. He studies how termites maintain room temperature, i.e., 24 degrees Celsius, in their anthills all day. So what they do is that they create these molds. Of course, I'm not on video, but I want you to imagine it as I explained. So imagine an anthill in a V form facing up. Okay, are we there? Good. That's why I like you. Now, imagine the termites inside there, and they create molds. They are sort of like vents, and then they go down. Okay, and they start blowing the air. They start blowing the air, and it goes through the vents, and it maintains room temperature all the time. So Mick Pierce is studying these two fields and is fascinated. He combines the two, and he ends up creating the biggest office building in Harare, Zimbabwe. It uses I think they saved about $2 million on air conditioning, because it actually doesn't use air conditioning. They just blow the air from down. But at the same time, regardless of what the temperature is, that building maintains its room temperature 24/7, whether it's cold, whether it's hot. Why? Because the man embraced lateral thinking. Okay. Another gentleman that I would like to share with you is a guy called Armancio Ortega. Armancio Ortega is very few people know him, but he is the owner of Prada. So, in the fashion world, for starters, this is what happens. If you go to the London Fashion Week, or you go to the New York Fashion Week, or the Paris Fashion Week, you have the supplier seated on the side, and then you have the models walk down the aisle, and they do their thing. They do their thing, and these guys have papers, so they would say, I like that dress, I'm taking part of that t-shirt, I want 1,000 of those, I want 1 million pieces, and what. So when they make the order, the designers have exactly 90 days to produce whatever the distributors have asked for. And what they do is that they go to China. Armancio Ortega looks at this and says, you know what? There's someone in the market that doesn't have 3 months, because they have their friend's wedding that is coming up, or their wedding is coming up, and they need a dress, and they need it to be special. So what does he do? He said, no, we are cutting out all our contracts with the guys in China, and this is what we're going to do. So they have about 2,000 stores across North America and Australia. So they put only 5 pieces of everything in those shops. Once they do that, if you come, they don't use any advertising. So if you come, and let's say there are 5 red dresses in a Prada store in Rotterdam, you go there, you buy one, another person buys one and says, I would wish to buy for my sister one that has a yellow stripe. So they use the algorithm and look at the statistics. If people want the same dress with a yellow stripe, they get that dress in those stores. 5 dresses, actually 5 of each, with a yellow stripe, red with yellow. They will get it there within 14 days. Where is their manufacturing point? Their manufacturing point is somewhere in Montpellier in France. Do they incur more costs? Yes, but they are able to stay ahead of the market. So this guy is able to churn dresses and t-shirts and all Prada products every 14 days. Now, by the time you wait for 90 days to get your things, they are way ahead. Why? Because of lateral thinking. There's a quote I was reading that blew my mind. It say that every valued creative idea will always be logical in hindsight. As I'm explaining these things, you're thinking, wow, that is so easy. That is so easy. But there's a formula to this madness. And the formula is lateral thinking. So I know you're asking yourself, so is this all theory? No, it's not theory. This is what I want you to do. I want you to get a sheet of paper, okay? And then put two columns, okay? Or if you're traveling, if you're just moving home, just get your phone and type, put two columns, and one, we're going to create outstanding ideas for a restaurant, okay? And this is one of the tools of lateral thinking, okay? It's called the Medici effect. So on one side, we put the assumptions. We put assumptions of what restaurants are all about, like mainstream restaurants. So a mainstream restaurant, number one, they have menus. Number two, a restaurant will have food. And number three, a restaurant will also do what? Serve food. So restaurants have menus, they charge for food, and they serve food. On the other column, I want you to reverse all that. So on the other column, I want you to put restaurants with no menus, restaurants that do not charge money for food, and restaurants that do not serve food. Okay? And then now we start coming up with the idea. So how do you create a restaurant that does not have a menu? One of the simplest ideas would be that the chef has some special every day. So you walk in and you take the chef's special. Okay. So another idea, how can we create a restaurant that does not charge money for food? So we could do a nice cafe that where people just bring in their food, or they come at the beach and all they pay is entrance fee, and there's music. We provide the plates and they get to serve themselves and they have a good time. So we're charging for the space. We are not charging for the food. Okay, I could go on and on and on and on, but that strategy works, and there are so many tools for lateral thinking. Remember, every valued creative idea will always be logical in hindsight. All these ideas I just shared will help you to stay ahead, but you have to embrace lateral thinking, that where 1 + 1 doesn't equal to 2. Now, you're asking yourself, I'm an employee, I don't have a company, so Mick Pierce and all these guys, I cannot relate. Lateral thinking applies in being an employee. Okay. I remember the last job I had. I go to my boss and I tell him I don't want a salary. What? You don't want a salary? No, I don't want a salary. What do you want? Okay, here's what I want. I want you to give me something so challenging. I want you to give me a figure that is so challenging. And every time, whenever I go above it, I get 30%, I get 35% of that. Now, that is lateral thinking. Why? Because assumptions are, when you're an employee, you get a what? You get a salary every month. They give you some money and you go home. So I employ that. And of course, the guy was like, are you mad? Are you even going to hit these things? And it took me about 1 year and about 8 months without me hitting the target. But once I started hitting that target, I was earning more money than everyone in that company. Why? Because I was willing to do some lateral thinking. So lateral thinking can happen whether you're an employee or you are not, whether you're an employee or you're in business. So that is strategy 1. I hope you're learning something. Please, the hashtag is staying ahead. Hashtag staying ahead. You can drop your questions on. The handle is at Consult Sudesh. and I'll be able to answer them at the end. So, moving on, let's get to the second strategy that will help you stay ahead. The second strategy is what we call the king's eye. Huh? King's eye. What do you mean? What do you mean, Sudesh? What's that thing? What's that king's eye thing that you're talking about? So the king's eye is very simple. When you're the scenario is when you're the king, you see on behalf of the kingdom. You're not just looking for food and this. You're planning on behalf of the kingdom. You're like the pharaoh that is thinking 7 years. That is thinking 14 years ahead and how the country of Egypt is going to survive the famine. This guy was thinking way ahead. Why? Because he's in that place. Now, how do people actually see so many years ahead? I always wondered how do people see? How come some people can see what will happen in 14 years time, and then other people cannot see what is going to happen tomorrow, or they have no clue where the world is headed and or what their jurisdiction is going to be tomorrow? It is because they do not practice to actually see. For you to see that far, you have to practice to see. I came across a mind-boggling document. China has a plan for 400 years ahead. 400 years. 400. They are thinking 400 years ahead. Okay. Anyway, coming back. How can you see 10 steps ahead? How can you see 10 years ahead? So it starts with the king's eye. It starts with how he or the queen starts with how he or she defines themselves. Let me start with business, and I'll get to the employee part later. Again, I'll bring up MTN because they are excellent at doing most of these strategies, and really that's why they are ahead of their thing. So MTN describes itself in 3 basic terms. At the basic term, they are a telecom company, and we know it as a telecom company. But on a strategic level, if I ask you, what business does MTN do? Does it sell airtime? No. Does it sell data? Not only data. What else? What else do they do? They sell voice. What else do they do? But the other day, they're into microloans. Now they're into mobile money. Now they're into this. Now they're into that. So, on a strategic level, MTN is not a telecom company. On a strategic level, it is in the business of connecting you everywhere you go. So, you want to go to hospital, they'll get their Momo Pay thing in hospital. You want to go to the market, they have that wired for you. You want to connect to your parent or grandparent in the village, they have you covered. They will connect you everywhere. You want to go to a petrol station, wherever you go, they are there. So in strategic terms, they are in the business of connecting you everywhere you go. Whether it means that gambling is going to connect you, or loans are going to connect you, or you sending money to your loved one, or buying that fuel, or paying school fees, they will connect you in whatever thing you do. That is how they've always looked at this thing. But that is not the end. There's what we call a broad view. Now, a broad view is where you see way ahead. A broad view of MTN is that it dominates all forms of communication on the African continent. All forms. Just think about it. Whether it's fiber, whether it's whether it's voice, whether it's what, they are in that business. That's a broad view. Let me give a very simple scenario, because you might not relate to MTN. Let's say you have there's someone that has a shop and you sell suits, you sell people's shoes, you sell all these things. So in basic terms, you sell clothes and shoes. But in a strategic view, you are a boutique. However, in a broad view, you are an image consultant. An image consultant sees different from a person that just sells shoes. An image consultant is thinking about uh, selling the knowledge and every extension that comes in it. That means that you could start out as a boutique, but if you see yourself as an image consultant, you would go, you would partner with deco people, you would partner with um, PR firms, you would partner with so many people, with people that are on movies, to movie sets, just to provide your clothes to those guys and tell them about colors. You would advise on so many things. Now, I hope this is making sense, because when I learned about this, I asked myself, okay, what does Sudesh International do in basic terms? It's a we do training, coaching, and consulting. All right, and then in strategic terms, what are we exactly doing? Strategic terms, we are. I thought about it, and I was thinking, in strategic terms, we provide business coaching and all that nice stuff. But in broad terms, we are in the business of providing clarity for forward-thinking leaders. Now, clarity for forward-thinking leaders is not limited to training. And that's why during COVID, when they had shut down the training parts of it, there were so many things that we were doing. So as long as it involves clarity and forward thinking, you could find us in educational toys or gaming for kids. Why? Because it's providing clarity. Or you'd find us in the healthcare system. As long as it involves clarity, we'll be there. That is a broad view. That is how you can see so many years ahead. Okay. All right. I hope this stuff is making sense. Now, going to the employee part, basic terms, you're an employee. Strategic terms, you're a value addition specialist. And the broad view is that you're a business partner. What are you talking about? I'm talking about having a king's eye. What you see will determine what value you provide, and the value that you provide will determine how much comes back to you, but it will determine how you're elevated. When you have a king's eye, you do not stay in one place. You will be elevated. If you see yourself as a business partner, you have an entrepreneurial mind coming into that business. You're not just there to get a paycheck. You're there to add value. You're there because you're king, you're queen, and you show up as such. So those are the two strategies I've shared so far. I have 3 to go, but I hope you're learning something. Please ask questions. I'll be answering them in about 5 minutes. We're about to finish. Okay, and the third strategy, this one is so simple. It's about stretching. Stretching will help you stay ahead. Today I was reading something that said that there is no growth in the comfort zone. And the story that I began with, I think it's perfect for this. There's no growth in the comfort zone. Someone would think that because I had been booked into a 7-star hotel and everything was at my disposal, that I was comfortable. No, I was not comfortable. And for some people, all you have to give them is just give them a little bit of comfort. Give them some money. That is where the system of salarium comes. Salarium comes from Latin word that means salt. So they will just give you enough just to keep you within the system. But how you think about it and how you use that platform matters. How you stretch yourself. I usually tell people that the easiest way to stretch yourself is read a book. Read books. Travel. Okay. I read a book about a guy called Dave Ramsey, and he was sharing wisdom of 20 years. So I don't have to make mistakes that this guy made because he has written about that. So third strategy, I'll give you a quick recap. The first strategy was embrace lateral thinking. The second strategy is have a king's eye. And the third strategy is stretch. The fourth strategy for you to stay ahead 10 steps is you have to be persistent. Persistence wears out resistance. Now, it is anyone can show up when it's okay, the weather is okay, the sun is up, you have money, clients are doing everything that you're asking them to do, your employer is happy with you. Anyone can show up when days are good, but the differentiator between those that stay way ahead is because those guys show up even when it's tough. Okay, they show up on those crappy days when they cannot pull two sentences together. They just continue. They pull, they plug, they do all these things. I was telling people that sometimes you do not have to break the rhythm for so much. You have to get into a rhythm. Show up, show up, show up, show up, show up. Do not you do not cut the rhythm so much. And sometimes there's wisdom in you moving on very, very fast. I mean immensely very fast. Does it mean that you don't feel pain? No, you feel pain, but pain is, I usually say pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I lost my mom, buried her on a Saturday. On a Monday I was working, and guys called me. We want to come home. I told them no, come in the evening, man. I'm working. And what? You're working on a Monday? You just buried your mom. Come on. The world waits for no one, ladies and gentlemen. You have to move on. Persistence wears out resistance. You have to get in a rhythm and you go on. It's like a song. You can't break the rhythm. You have to go on the crappy days. You have to go on when things are right. That is how you stay ahead, because some people will only go as far as it's easy. They cannot go beyond that. All right. And then last but not least, the last strategy, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call letting desire fuel willingness. Everyone has a desire to be. No, let me give you this example. So in Uganda, you have you have slums. So there is a slum maybe called Katanga. So there's a guy who lives in Katanga. He pays about $5 for their rent, and they desire to be rich. They have a desire to be rich. And there's another guy. His name is Sudesh Kaka. That guy stays somewhere in New York, okay, on the 90th floor, and he also has a desire to be richer. Or let's talk about Sudhir Ruparelia. He stays in Kololo. He also has a desire to be richer. The other guy has a desire. This one has a desire. The difference is that Sudhir's desire has been fueled by his willingness to take action, while the other guy in Katanga just has a desire, and that desire has not fueled his willingness to actually get rich. So he will look at maybe stealing and doing other things, while this guy creates wealth. So guys, the guys that stay ahead, they have that desire. Okay, why? They learn a skill. They educate themselves and learn how to be ahead. They will partner with so and so. They will sit down. They will teach themselves the craft and get ahead. They will spend sleepless nights. They will burn the midnight oil. No one has to tell them whether to read a book or not. They are always ahead. Why? Because they let their desires fuel the willingness, and so they take action. And when they take action, they are able to see the progress. Now, I wrote down something here that trying to inspire the unable will only yield frustration. Desire all you want, but what is going to create a difference, what is going to get you ahead, is the way you fuel that willingness, the action that you put in, the extra hours, the ability to get feedback. All those things get you ahead. Okay. Yeah. So we've come to the end of our Twitter space. I've just shared 5 strategies that can help you to get ahead. The first one was to embrace lateral thinking. The second one was to have a king or a queen's eye, and I know you love that one. And then the third was to stretch. The fourth was to be persistent on crappy days, and the fifth is to let desire fuel your willingness. So I will take I'll take some questions. I'll take some questions and then take it from here. Let me see if there are any questions. Mr. CEO Roland is saying you're loud and clear. Reverend Joab is saying you're loud and clear. Okay. No questions. No questions. All right. Since there are no questions, I think we'll end it here. I want to thank you so much for being on this call. I hope you've learned something as you stay ahead. From me to you, it is adios, muchachos. Bye-bye.